Okay, only 2 more moments left in this step. And it looks like we're going on a date with our boy. I'm very excited. Let's see how this plays out when Derek's our date instead. You'd whiled away the morning, doing whatever struck your fancy, and now you were recharging with lunch. With nothing on the horizon, you were free to spend as much or as little time on your plate as you wanted. It was while you were thinking on all the possibilities for your afternoon that your moms approached you.
Hi.
Hey.
You okay?
Mouth full, you nodded in reply. To your surprise, they both sat with you at the table. Based on the time, you had wondered if they were joining you for a meal, but neither of them brought anything.
Alright.
Great. We wanted to have a little chat with you.
The qualifier little did nothing to downplay the situation. Your chewing slowed as your eyes widened, looking from one parent to the other. Anything that required both of them to talk to you must be something big. It was unsettling. I wonder if this... Yeah, it is skippable. I'm not going to skip it, but I was curious if it's like such the same that you could actually skip if you wanted to. I won't skip, because I want to give Derek his full due. He deserves it. You didn't like being the only one not knowing what was going on. Stomach churning, you waited for them to fill you in.
There.
Aw, don't look so worried. It's nothing scary. Promise. There's a soiree at the Cypress tomorrow night. Your ma and I are going.
The Cypress was the country club your moms were part of and where Elizabeth played golf. It seemed like every other month they had some event or another, all with fancy names like soiree. Chewing your lip, you wondered what this had to do with you. Mom chuckled at your poorly concealed reaction. Leaning in, Ma took your hand and squeezed it.
We've decided to make the night a bit special. Elizabeth's going to be allowed to stay home fully alone for the first time.
Sorry.
You'll still be coming to the party with us. It's Elizabeth's night to party with no family around, not yours. Sorry, you've got to wait a couple more years.
Disappointed. Crossing your arms over your chest, you leaned back in your seat. So much for the big talk. This was all about Elizabeth.
Don't worry, we're not done yet. There's something in this for you.
You were not yet convinced, but you gave your moms the benefit of the doubt and listened. Your parents shared a look across the table. You cleared your throat, reminding them that you were waiting. They couldn't keep dropping such hints and then turn coy when the conversation was about to get good.
Well,
since it's a pretty fancy party, that's still chaperoned, and attendees are allowed to bring a guest, we thought it might be a nice opportunity for you to invite someone yourself. As a date, if you want.
Your eyes widened as the words sunk in. Your moms continued, and it was a struggle to keep up.
Even though we'll be at the party too, you don't need to worry about us getting in your way. You'll be free to eat, dance, and enjoy the music as you see fit. But no leaving the property.
Ma nodded at Mom's interjection.
isn't that great?
Yes, as long as you don't leave the party. And if you'd rather bring just a friend, that's a-okay too.
I don't even know how to react. Your parents were smiling at you, clearly expecting a response, but you were still too shocked to formulate anything of the kind. You hadn't imagined this was where the talk was going.
Don't worry about it.
The soiree isn't until tomorrow, so you've got time. Just let us know your plans before we're heading out. And that's all. We'll leave you to your lunch now.
Your moms rose from their chairs in unison, disappearing to another part of the house. You barely noticed their departure. All you could think of was what had just happened. The remnants of your lunch stared up at you from your plate. I can't remember what I did last time. This time I feel like I should finish eating. The conversation had taken your mind off the meal, but you opted to try to eat a little more. You picked up the plate for a little while longer. Even though you'd relocated to your bedroom, your head was stuck on the conversation that had unfolded at the dining table downstairs. You knew that You wanted it to be a date. The prospect of having your first date made it impossible to sit still. You couldn't help but jiggle your foot as you laid on your bed, contemplating the possibility. That night being a date would mean actually asking someone out. Excuse me. The little you knew of that came from what you'd seen on TV and movies and what you'd heard about from kids at school. Your moms hadn't even entertained the idea of you dating until now. You went over possible words and phrases in your head, setting up scenarios and smooth segues before tearing them down and trying something else. Also, slightly off topic, but has this always been here? And I just don't remember it? And what does it mean exactly? I'm intrigued. HCY023G? Interesting. Okay, so I can't imagine Cove in this scenario, which makes sense. It had been his name repeating inside your mind, his face brightening as you invited him to join you. Aww. And we're gonna daydream. You let your train of thought continue a little longer. You clearly pictured his pretty green eyes, the way he got a tiny frown when he was nervous, and tried your best to guess what he might do next. It was nice. You liked him. You knew you were supposed to be friends, but you just liked him. A lot. You wouldn't be able to stop thinking of him even if you wanted to, and you didn't. Alright, we're gonna call that boy. You were relieved to find the phone sitting in its cradle in the living room. Picking up the address book your mom's kept close to the phone, you flicked through until you found Derek's number under Suarez. You tapped the numbers into the phone and waited for someone to pick up.
Hello.
Oh. Hello.
Suarez residence.
Hello, Mrs. Suarez. This is Molly Waverider. Can I talk to Derek?
I'm sorry.
Oh, he's out with his brothers right now. I can get him to call you back.
I changed my mind. Abort. Yeah, I'll wait. I have time. Thank you. It would be really great if he could do it today.
Mm-hmm. I'll see what I can do.
You gabbled your goodbyes and hung up. You tried to relax in the living room somehow. That was as far as you got in decision-making. You let yourself sink down into the corner of the couch and remained stuck against the plush cushions. Your plan A was on hold. More than that, it was hung up on. But you'd committed to waiting to hear from Derek, so waiting is what you had to do. The remote had been carelessly left on the green stool, almost certainly by your big sister. You lurched over the armrest to reach the TV device. You stretched out your finger and succeeded in pressing down the on button. When flopping back down into your seat, you caught a glimpse of what had appeared on the screen. The show playing was a How It's Made mini-documentary type of show. The subject of that episode was pre-packaged crackers. You didn't have the motivation to actually pick up the remote to change the channel, you simply let it play. After discovering how ice is added to the flour when mixing the wet and dry ingredients, a jingly ring echoed across the room. Someone was calling. Panic! Hello? This is Molly. The initial answer you got was a series of light-hearted chuckles.
Hey Molly, this is Derek. I'm really sorry I missed you calling before. I was watching the little bros at the park. Mom came to find me.
Mom even came to find you, even though you were being a busy, responsible older brother again. She did?
Yeah, so I could call you back.
Oh, Mrs. Suarez did you a big favor. Could she tell it was important? She got that mom sense.
But, thanks for calling. Was there something you wanted to talk about?
Basically, tomorrow my moms are taking me to a soiree at the country club they're part of.
Cool.
You've got to tell me what happens when you get back.
You had officially gotten to talk to him about the party. The time had come to do something with the opportunity. I shall resolve to make it a dato. Would you go with me as a practice date? I like this one, actually. My parents said it would be alright if I brought a date, and I thought maybe... Ooh, look at that blush! You danced around the unspoken question, hoping that Derek would catch your drift. The pitch of his voice shot up so strikingly it crackled through the phone.
Really?
The possibility took a second for Derek to process. And then another second. And then another. Derek? Finally, he gave a rushed reply.
Oh.
No, yeah, I want to go. You're supposed to take a date to a party like that, right? It makes sense.
You're welcome. Thank you. Prior stalling aside, your invitation had Derek positively giddy. He giggled and babbled away from the receiver, but it wasn't nearly quiet enough for the phone to not pick it up.
I can't believe it. This is the best.
Oh, this is so wholesome. I love it. Then, I guess it's a date?
It's a date.
It's a date! You smiled widely. It was going to be a special night. A muffled feedback masked Derek's voice as he talked on. He was moving around. You could easily picture him bounding about his apartment, phone still in hand.
Oh man.
What do you think they're gonna have at the soiree? Dancing, music, sparkly drinks, maybe?
Probably. The Cypress usually has pretty fancy parties.
So cool.
The anticipation between the both of you continued to rise, just imagining what tomorrow night might bring. But the party you were already starting was interrupted when Mom ambled back in the living room. She almost gave a shout to greet you, but caught herself when she noticed you were on the phone. Mimicking your current position, Mom stuck out her thumb and pinky finger and pressed that hand against her ear. At the same time, her lips stretched forward to slowly mouth the word, "Who?" Oh, bye, I gotta hang up now. The phone in your hand and your mouth open. Can you hang on for a second? I've gotta answer my mom.
No worries.
Say I said hello.
Leaving things with him there, you lowered the phone to the counter.
So, what's happening?
I'm talking to Derek. He says hello.
Derek Suarez?
Her eyebrows arched in curiosity, but she still wore a grin.
And did he happen to call out of the blue, or was it you who gave him a ring? Maybe to ask a certain question?
I don't know what you mean, Mom. You nodded your head vigorously, beaming at your mom. She understood what you meant.
Okay.
Well...
What kind of outing will it be?
Her voice was hesitant, but serious. You know what it is. It's a date. Mom nodded in understanding. She wore a wispy smile.
Would you mind putting him on speaker for a second? I need to ask him something about tomorrow.
Oh? Oh. The request caught you off guard and you fumbled the receiver for a second, but you got it under control and then hit the speaker button. Derek, you can talk to my mom. I put you on speaker.
Hello, Mrs. Waverider. Hey there. I have a quick question. What are you intending? Going out with Molly for her very first date?
Mom! To be super good to me, that's what. Isn't that right, Derek? Yeah, Derek, what are your intentions? It's either one of these. Mom, you're going to make him uncomfortable. You crossed your arms over your chest and frowned at your mom. Was she trying to scare Derek off before you'd even had a chance to go out with him? That's what parents do.
I've got a plan.
I have the extra best of intentions. Molly is gonna have such a fun time she won't even know what hit her.
Aw.
Okay, good. That's enough from me. The big day isn't even here yet.
You wondered if that meant she intended to give a repeat of this performance tomorrow. You were afraid to find out.
Alright. Bye then.
Bye.
See you later.
Take care and see you soon.
There were some happy giggles that snuck through before all sound on the other side cut off, marking the end of the conversation.
Well, would you mind if I borrowed the phone now? I'll give Derek's parents a call back and get everything squared away.
Very responsible. You held the receiver out and Mom strolled over to pluck it out of your hand.
Thank you very much, kiddo.
Your part of the prep work was finished, and the rest of the afternoon passed by just like that. Back in your room, your mind was alight with visions of tomorrow night. The soiree was something, but not nearly as exciting as going on your first date. You were thrilled that Derek had actually said yes, that he was your genuine date to a party. You hugged your knees to your chest, overawed by the thought. The night couldn't come soon enough. The evening of the soiree had arrived, the daylight hours having slipped away in a blur. Up in your bedroom, you were getting ready for the big event. That was your intention, at least, but you hadn't settled on an outfit. Stationed in front of your wardrobe, you scanned over the clothing you had at your disposal. Though Ma had mentioned this event was a bit dressier than a normal get-together, you didn't necessarily have to comply. I do wonder how Derek might feel about my outfit. You couldn't help but consider how he would respond to the way you were dressed. Would he like seeing you dressed all fancy, or would it reinforce the weirdness of the situation? You know that boy's coming in with, like, maybe not a full-on tuxedo, but like a bow tie and a white dress shirt and stuff. I just know it. I can picture it so clearly in my head. Your mind drifted the next city over. Was Derek going through these same steps right now, staring at his wardrobe and trying to decide what to wear? You had no idea if he would dress up for the occasion himself or if he'd wear his usual attire. I cannot see a world where he's in his usual attire. It would be so much easier if you knew what he was going to do. Yeah, I want to impress Derek, for sure. And I'm gonna look for something formal. You attempted to decide between the nicer pieces in your wardrobe, the ones that rarely had a chance to come out. You decided to dress formally because I like dressing up. There was something magical about the sheen of an elegant fabric and the cut of formal wear, something that transformed everyone into a more sophisticated version of their normal self. To start, you decided to wear a dress. The one you picked was light and had sheen. The silky material seemed to glide through your fingers as you took it from the wardrobe. It was a perfect fit for a summer evening party. You began to get dressed, your fingers working stiff zips and awkward fastenings. It felt different against your skin, reminding you with every movement that you were dressed up. Whatever happened tonight, you were pleased that you'd gotten the opportunity to wear this. Now dressed, you gave yourself a final glance over before heading downstairs ready to head out. Is that really all there was to it? I thought there was more to this dress up, but maybe I'm thinking of the Step 3 Orca fundraising dinner. There was one moment at least where you had like a lot more options for getting dressed. You found your moms already waiting in the living room. They were putting the finishing touches on their outfits, Ma strapping her heel into a stiletto shoe, and Mom trying to fasten a bracelet single-handed. Looking good. They looked up as you entered.
Oh,
Molly, you look so nice. Don't you think, Pam?
thanks.
Thanks for dressing up, Molly. I hope the party will be prepared for your arrival. You look sharp.
Mom was still struggling with the bracelet. You lent a hand, literally, by taking one side and holding it as she secured the clasp.
Thanks, kiddo.
Elizabeth flittered down the stairs, her eyes narrowed.
What?
You're still here?
Yes, but not for much longer. Hopefully. Wait, I know you're excited, but we haven't even said goodbye. And I want to go over how things are going to play out.
Huh. Elizabeth sighed as Mom began listing the rules, ticking them off on her fingers.
No ordering takeout or other deliveries. You can't have anyone else come over.
Uh-huh.
She nodded, resigned to her fate, listening to a set of rules she could predict without so much as a glance at a crystal ball.
If anything happens, you can call us or go across the street to the Holdens. Keep the noise down. This house might be empty, but there are people all around in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Usual house rules still apply. Don't do anything you wouldn't do if we were here.
All right.
And we'll be back no later than 11:30 p.m. But we'll call if there are any issues, so don't tie up the phone line all night.
Right. All done? Can you go now? Ma strode over and swept Elizabeth up in a hug. Your sister let out a small noise, her eyes widening, and suddenly looked much less like the smug teenager she acted like.
You're such a big girl now. I still can't believe it.
Elizabeth rolled her eyes. This wasn't the quick departure that she'd been hoping for. Any chance of it ending soon vanished as Mom joined in the hug.
Neither can I. It feels like it was only yesterday that...
Ugh. Elizabeth groaned, trying to cut the reminiscing off without success. Here I come! Mom and Ma held out their arms to you as you approached, welcoming you into the hug. Elizabeth whined, eager for this to come to an end already.
Jeez.
Can you all just go? Your family disentangled from the hug in time to catch the doorbell ringing.
Ooh, the guest of honor is here.
She raced over to the door. As Ma predicted, Derek had arrived right on time, and he was ushered inside.
Oh, nice.
You look very nice, Derek.
I freaking knew he was gonna wear a bow tie and a white shirt. I wasn't expecting the khaki pants though. I thought it was gonna be black. But you know what? You look great. You look awesome.
Thanks, Mrs. Wave Rider. So do you.
Derek pulled at the ends of his little polka dot bow in satisfaction. His gaze, though, not so subtly, sought you out.
And that's going to you too, Molly. Classy.
On the final words, his voice faded away softly like the rays of dimming light. His words took you by surprise, but after the earlier worries about your appearance, they were a welcome balm for your nerves. You attempted to control the grin spreading across your face. The small statement had made a big impact. You inspected his outfit in turn. I wish I could say the same to you. That's terrible. I do. Big fan of the bow tie. Bow ties are cool. I love your bow tie. His crisp, formal clothes could barely contain the elation Derek was vibrating.
Thank you.
It's kinda goofy, but also kinda popular.
Now that Mom had finished reiterating the rules to Elizabeth, who then scurried off to the sanctuary of her room, she came over to greet Derek.
Hi, Derek. Nice to have you along for the ride. Thank you for taking me.
You're welcome.
It's no trouble. You're always welcome.
Mom's eyebrows rose in twin lines of concern.
Let's all remember that this is only a very, very first date. There's no pressure on either of you, all right?
Yeah.
No pressure.
His absolute enthusiasm began to dim at that statement. Luckily, Ma came over and cheered him on.
Mom's the cautious sort, sweetie. You don't need to look so worried.
Mom smiled reassuringly. She didn't intend to scare him. Ma laid a hand on her shoulder.
We should get to the car. There's nothing fashionable about being late. Oh, and before I forget, thank you so much for getting here on the dot, Derek. That's appreciated.
You're welcome.
Can you teleport or something? I do wonder. Can you teleport or something? You still managed to be the ideal guest even with the long trip here.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna be late for this.
Carefree laughter and conversation flowed from Derek.
Oh, man.
I told my mom it was 30 minutes before it actually was. I was definitely going to be here when it was time to go.
Aww. Yeah, that's my question. Wait, if that's what happened, did you really just get here? And then the stream hit a block. Derek broke eye contact with you. He poked at his pant hemline, tucking his shirt down more to keep busy.
Not really. Mom got me here on time, so like 30 minutes before now.
Well...
I didn't want to interrupt you and your moms because you were probably getting ready then. I just hung out at the park.
Derek. My goodness, you goober. With a wink, Derek tried to smooth over the awkwardness of that confession.
Jeremy never popped out of the bushes to insult me, so it was all good.
Oh, thank goodness. I mean, he felt it was very important. I feel a little special. That... I know it's not intended with like a double meaning, but it's kind of... It could have a double meaning. I don't know if I can say that. That means a lot to me. He kicked up a leg bashfully, giggling the whole time.
Thanks.
I wanted to make a good impression. And even if I did have to be bored for a while, at least it was here in your neighborhood. You never know. There could have been traffic. Or what if Jorge fell off a gate and broke his collarbone again?
Jorge broke his collarbone?
Ugh.
You invited me to a soiree. My life would be over if just one of those things came up and, oh well, guess we're not going after all happened.
Oh, I feel that. Derek was drowning in the conversation of his own making. He chose to put a stop to that, building a dam between him and it. I relate to Derek way too much with the overthinking, putting like way too much effort into something so simple and just being like, it's fine. I'm not crazy. This is normal, right?
Sorry. I don't want to be all complainy when we're going to a party. And besides, coming early isn't gonna matter if we're late because we kept talking about being early. Let's catch up with your moms.
Right. We better hurry. You pulled up at the country club. The sun had sunk deep into the horizon, the last of its light sleepily warming the oncoming night. Your moms led the way to the space around the back where the event was being held. The place had been transformed through decoration, with smart tablecloths and elegant ribbons contributing to a festive atmosphere. Musicians dressed in matching black and white were setting up their instruments and flicking through pages of sheet music. And, as promised, there was a table covered in plates of carefully prepared food. Destination reached, your parents rounded on you and Derek.
Things haven't kicked off yet, but don't let that stop you from enjoying yourselves.
Have fun.
We'll be around if you need us.
See you later.
Bye! Derek enthusiastically waved your moms off, stretching his arm as high as it'd go.
Bye, Mrs. and Mrs. Waverider.
Once they'd retreated a distance away, you found him watching you. His eyes sparkled in the dainty dangling lights all around as your date together officially began.
Is there anybody you want to socialize with? That's what parties are for, sometimes. Or we could get refreshments.
I wonder if we can do all of these. I think we did at least 2, if not all of them, when we were with Cove. I gotta go get some food. I need some energy to fuel the ever oncoming social anxiety of interacting at a party. We could go look at the snacks now. It's okay to eat them, even if the music hasn't started yet.
Let's go.
Alright, let's see what they've got.
The two of you wandered over to the refreshment table. With it being early in the night, it had barely been touched, and the plates were nearly as pristine as when they'd left the kitchens. The offerings were all tiny and bite-sized, ready to be picked up and sampled. It was immediately apparent that there was plenty to choose from. Just from the level of care with which it was presented, it was clear that this was fancy stuff. Derek perused the options with a scrutinizing eye. From one end to the other, his gaze swept across the scene. He took a few sniffs for good measure.
They put these together themselves, or they hired a catering company to come here and make them, but it's really fresh. That's great.
More like it's gross. It looks too bad to be fresh. But only some of it is any good. You examine the table yourself like a detective at a crime scene. That one is so sour your tongue will shrivel up. that looks like chocolate, and it is mostly.
What else is it? Bacon? Figs?
Nastiness.
I gotcha.
Okay. Can you get that at a grocery store?
Yes. You shook your head and chuckled at the back and forth. At least something came from visiting the table. Good food wasn't anything you'd be getting from it. Without much thought and without taking much time, Derek scooped up only a couple appetizers onto his plate. The rest were left for other guests.
Want me to get anything for you?
Oh, how kind, sir. Yes, indeed. Since I'm still kind of picky at 13, just those ones. You gestured to and described the food you had in mind while Derek nodded along.
I'm on it.
Derek put his own plate down to get an empty one. He sidestepped across the length of the table, filling your dish with every one you pointed out. Then the plate was offered to you. Thank you. His cheery reply was said at the same moment he lifted his own food back up.
You're welcome.
Did you know they add ice to cracker mix? So, do you like it? His face turned away hesitantly. Honesty was conflicting with properness, but he tried to walk that line.
Honestly...
Not that much, but they really tried. A lot of parties use pretty cheap stuff.
Yeah, I like that you can only get this stuff here. The company was even better than the food. I told you I wasn't lying when only some of it was good. After going through a round of sampling, you can continue munching on the refreshments? Does that mean you just go back to the table? Hold on. I gotta make a save. I must know. Okay, so you can just continue eating, or you can move on to something else. Derek? Yeah, I'll introduce you to people. I know a lot of these people, since my moms have brought me here a lot since I was little.
Whoa.
Wow, I want to meet them.
You beckoned for him to follow you. He strolled up to your side and matched your pace. Most of the attendees skewed significantly older or considerably younger than the two of you, with only a few people around your age. Derek easily found his place among in that audience. He dipped his head politely and made his introduction.
Hey, I'm Derek. It's really nice to meet you.
His well-mannered disposition won over the longtime Cypress members right off the bat.
Great to meet you too, son.
As you'd expected, there was interest in who you'd brought to the party and what your relationship with him was.
And Molly, good to see you. This your date?
Derek clasped his hands behind his back while scooting an extra step closer to you. He was poised as if you were about to take a proper couple's portrait photo. Stop. His rosy cheeks would have looked perfect if a picture had been taken.
Yeah, Molly needed a date for the party, and she picked me for it.
His phrasing had caught your attention. Did he really think you had to have a date and that's why you asked? Or were you just thinking too hard about it? There was no way to tell by his tone. Derek had used his best behavior voice for the adults. And the circle of guests all visibly reacted to the explanation, touching a hand to their cheek or chest. It was clearly too much for their hearts.
Best of luck to you on your date.
Derek definitely made an impression on them. Still, some people focus on the important things, how you were dressed.
Don't you look snappy in that outfit?
You've scrubbed up well. With the basic niceties taken care of, you moved on to something else to pass the time. Hey, Derek. Can we find a place to sit?
Obviously.
Oh, duh, yeah, you gotta have a place to sit. Let me just...
He checked out the area, swiveling his head around. When Derek couldn't get a good enough view, he hopped up into the air. Boing!
That one looks open over there.
I think so too. You walked to sit at the edge of the party area, where it was quieter with fewer people cluttered around. Derek hustled to reach the table first.
Don't worry, I'll get that for you.
He pulled out a chair and waited. What a gentleman! You passed and sat in a different chair. What kind of awful person are you? Why would you do such a thing? You're a real gentleman. You took a seat on the woven patio chair. It was still a little warm from what was left of the sunlight. Derek gladly pushed it back into place with you in it. Then, Derek swung around the table and got into his own chair, the one right across from you. Where did you learn all your manners?
I don't know. My family, teachers, TV shows? I just try to be polite and usually I am.
Huh. That's nice.
Thanks.
Derek leaned all the way back, giving a grin. The conversation continued until you felt refreshed and ready to go again. Alright. Is there anything you'd want to do? Letting the next move be up to him, Derek restlessly looked around the party. He squinted his eyes and really considered the possibilities. Then he gave an unassertive answer.
Well,
If it wouldn't be a big deal, would it be alright if you showed me around? I've never seen any of this place, so, like, we could go on a walk?
Derek's pointer fingers tapped in a rhythm across the edge of the table, like he was spelling out his answer in text on a typewriter. You nodded in reassurance.
Thanks!
Derek enthusiastically bounced from his seat. You got to your feet too. You led him down a familiar stone walking path you knew would get far. Your lovely stroll around the country club grounds began in earnest. The bustling sounds of the party soon faded away, replaced by whispers of cricket songs in the serene summer breeze. Along the way, you gestured outward to point out where buildings were what buildings were what, from simple storage sheds to special club rooms for VIP members. And you were able to tell Derek all about the golf holes in the distance that you passed by, including how good or bad your big sister was at completing them. You had a chance to tell the funny story when, one time, she got a penalty for a strike that landed in a water hazard. Yeah, that'll do it. She had jumped right in the little pond to retrieve the ball and tried to pretend it never happened while dripping wet. Elizabeth! Derek was as amused as he was amazed. He engaged with you by making silly guesses about what you would tell him about next. Derek jokingly suggested that a normal garage was a research facility studying how to add extra green to the grass. You were so absorbed in your companion for the outing and having the space to yourselves that you didn't realize the growing humdrum around you until it was right around the corner. Derek paused. He'd noticed it too.
Oh,
His eyebrow quirked as he tried to reason out the disturbance.
huh?
is that people? Did we make a loop and I just missed that?
No, we're on the opposite end. It's about as far away from the event area as we could be. Curiously, Derek took big strides while mentally puzzling over what you'd said. Okay, what's happening over here? Together, you pass by a large wall to reveal another seating area. It too was filled with formally dressed people.
Whoa.
A second party?
None of the faces scattered about were regular members. Each one was as unrecognizable as any stranger off the street. You had your points of focus, and Derek his own totally separate ones. He spoke aloud to share what he'd noticed.
The tables have cloths here, and I think the chairs didn't look like that back where we were. Actually, this kind of feels like we got stuck in some alternate reality version of our soiree, where everything is still really fancy, but also still different in weird ways.
You're right, that has to be the answer.
Hey, you're the one who's supposed to know the real answer.
Okay. Actually, this is their outdoor dining seating for other types of events, ones that aren't the normal soirees. Okay, so it could be like a wedding or something like that. I never have a reason to go here when I visit with my moms. I kinda thought it'd be empty with a soiree happening. Derek's gaze wandered across the area, taking another shrewd look.
Yeah, why be in this place when there's food and pretty lights over in the patio? And there's way more teens than at our party. Tons of them look like they're our age.
Okay, so probably not a wedding if it's a bunch of teens. Prom? Graduation? Trying to think what other... I mean, I guess it could be a really fancy birthday party or something.
This is mysterious.
The long list of questions didn't bother Derek. Quite the opposite. Playing detective was something he was having fun with.
It's time to get to the bottom of this. I'm gonna ask somebody what's up.
We just come and crash some other event and like, hey, what's happening over here? Tally-ho, Watson! What? Derek, are we really gonna do that?
This is gonna be great.
You can leave it to me, Molly. I'll talk.
Okay. I believe in you. As you warily followed behind him, Derek boldly headed into the thick of the family reunion, business meeting, wedding, secret society meeting, or whatever it was. Soon, you would know. Why? Huh? Who? This isn't who I think it is it? No. No, it can't be. No. No, it can't be. Right? I'm gonna let this play out. Hold on a second. The subject Derek zeroed in on was a tall kid, maybe a little older than you and him, who stood on the edges of the crowd by themselves. Most everyone else was part of a group or in one-on-one conversation, but not that person. Their hair was short, swooping black strands that framed a pointedly petite face. Their dark brown eyes were heavily lidded. On a second glance, you also noticed there was a small mole on their neck. You wouldn't have been surprised if people often told them they were pretty. The rest of their skin was a pale white, the kind that had somehow escaped any tanning, freckling, or even sunburning in California's summer rays. Derek offered a friendly wave once he was close enough for it to be clear he wasn't just passing by.
So...
Hey, this might sound weird, but what are you guys all doing here?
This is totally Baxter, isn't it? Isn't it that smile, the grin? It's... Wait, he was here the entire time? This is him, isn't it? A coy smile came across the stranger's face. Okay, no voice though, no voice. Oh, I think so though. I know that freaking smirk.
We're visitors who are in this town for a dance circuit. This dining area is reserved for our group only tonight. What is going on with you?
Yeah, if he's dancing, it's gotta be Baxter. I can't believe we can meet him here. Wait, if you go by yourself, can you meet, I was gonna say Daxter. Can you meet Baxter here? If you're alone, oh, I have so many questions. Because I thought I'd have to jump straight into step 3 for Baxter's route next time, but now I'm like, wait, can I also meet him at the soiree if I go alone? Oh, the possibilities! The tables were immediately turned. You and Derek had questions to answer for. He rubbed his cheek and chuckled uncomfortably.
Oops.
We didn't know that. There's a soiree happening on the other side of the club for members and their guests. That's where we came from. Please don't tell on us.
That got them to open their eyes completely. They even leaned forward just a bit, much more engaged in the conversation.
I thought I noticed something that way. It's been bothering me the entire evening. I was planning to check when it got darker. Yeah, well, that's what it is. Sorry for crashing your party. Don't apologize.
The self-described dancer's eyes sunk back into their half-open state as their lips curved even further. The smile had become a true smirk, and that's how you know who it is.
I'm still going to yours when I get the chance.
The mutual exchange of secrets brought a light-hearted sense of camaraderie between your tiny group. But it didn't last. They inclined their head in a slight nod before breezing away.
Bye! Good luck with your dance circuit and everything else.
Have a nice life! I'm currently awestruck, me in the moment, so I would just be like, in a daze, goodbye. I would probably say this, though. Yeah, good luck not getting caught. As soon as your vague acquaintance mixed back into the crowd of fellow suited performers, Derek wrapped his arms around his chest.
Okay, I feel way more out of place now that we're not even talking to anybody. Let's go back to the path before one of the adults realizes we're not supposed to be here. It's gonna be like that movie with the aliens who take over people where they point and yell at real humans. That's so freaky.
The movie with the aliens who take over people where they point and yell at real humans? I don't think I've ever seen this movie. Yeah, no, I'm all for leaving. I feel very, worried about getting caught here. Right, we've gotta go. Derek's expression tensed with a grim seriousness. He took an extra step towards you, never taking his eyes off your surroundings. Some of the guests had already begun directing lingering glances at the two of you, unsure of your presence there. The closeness allowed you to hear conspiratorial words said under his breath.
How are we gonna handle this?
We just need to pretend we belong and walk out. Trying to ignore the stares, you made your break for it. Just take a breath and begin to walk. Derek evened his poise and came up to your side. He kept his head high, chest out, chin pointed, and pumped his arms back and forth in time with his footsteps. The act was more parody of a fancy pants rich person than normal human at a get-together. We're so overt, we're covert. But Derek always had to give things his all. Foot by foot, the way to freedom grew ever closer. After passing a group of people, an unfamiliar voice hit your ear from behind.
Excuse me, do you know where your parents are?
The server may have honestly been wondering, or it might have been a veiled method to call you out as not belonging in the politest way possible. That it didn't change the fact that you were spotted waltzing around a private party you weren't invited to. The next sound that made its way through your pounding heartbeat was a far more familiar whisper.
Shoot.
Run!
You didn't need to hear anything else. The two of you were in sync. Like a switch was hit, you burst up to your full height, which is not very tall, and used the momentum to launch yourself forward past the failed hiding spot. Your dramatic escape caused a minor ruffling of feathers throughout the crowd. Shouts of "Hey!" and "Stop running!" could be heard over the confusion of what was going on. It was just as Derek had feared. But no one was actually chasing after you as far as you could tell. Busted! This is why you don't break into random parties. However, neither you nor Derek were taking chances, and you kept up the frantic pace. You were escaping the metaphorical aliens. Your throbbing heart was caught up in your throat as your pounding feet propelled you down the same track you'd come from. Being dressed in your Sunday best didn't help matters. It may have been fitting for a summer soiree, but it didn't fit at all for situations like that you somehow ended up in. It seemed you and Derek had a knack for winding up in positions that required a hasty retreat. At least that time you could get away for good. You wouldn't have to go home and face the music like when you ditched Elizabeth on the first day of vacation. Once you'd made it halfway back across the country club, you finally slowed into a full stop, breathing a sigh of relief. Your face was flushed with heat, but a chill began to seep in as the evening wind brushed over beads of sweat on your skin. You got goosebumps along your arms. It was invigorating. Meanwhile, Derek wiped his forehead with the palm of his hand, likely missing those plush wristbands he almost always had on, and glanced up at the sky. How did you and I get into so much trouble?
Good job, team.
Looks like we shall live to see another day.
Another victory in the bag. You gave a thumbs up in celebration. The rest of the walk back was indeed a walk. You could relax with the slow pace, enjoying the quiet reassurance of being alone with Derek. The rest of the world was unable to reach you, for a little while. Nightfall had long passed by the time you and Derek found your way back under the dazzling lights of the summer soiree. Mom would say it's not fashionable to be late, but maybe it was when it's your second time arriving to a party. It might have been to Derek. He took in the scene with new eyes, amazed once again by the elegance surrounding him. With a tilt of his head, he shot a chummy grin at you.
Definitely.
Yeah, I definitely did have to be here for this. It's living a real-life movie instead of watching one.
The use of instead stood out to you, enough that it showed on your face. It scrunched in a way that made Derek pause. For a second, he didn't speak, frozen in place. Then Derek deflated like a free balloon from the shopping street. His shoulders sunk low and forward, and he bent on his knees.
Well, actually, we were gonna all go to the movie theater. Mom, Dad, the bros. It was something we knew would be today for a couple weeks.
And you gave that up to come here with me.
But then you called and you asked me to go to the party, and I said yeah. I didn't even think about how there was already a plan for that day.
He sniggered at himself, eyebrows pinching together tightly.
It was kind of awkward when I had to tell my parents I couldn't call you back and say I wasn't gonna go after all and beg them to let me miss the movie.
Aww.
Luckily, they could tell this was a matter of life or death and still wanted their son around, so they managed to bring me over.
Derek and you were somehow equally shocked by this explanation.
Man.
I always used to remember those things. They were big deals. And now this happened.
He sighed, baffled and frustrated. The green-eyed boy had lost the metaphorical keys of his own thoughts.
I gotta do better next time.
You already do more than anyone I know. Very true. My mom say this night is me growing up more. I think you're growing up too. That's kind of nice. You're kind of impulsive, huh? Is he? I don't know if I would classify him as impulsive ever. You are 13! If it helps, I'm happy you wanted to see me so much. I mean, that is true too. It's either the top one or the second one. I like both of those. I think I'm gonna go top, though. You already do more than anyone I know.
I do?
Mm-hmm. You're really responsible.
Wow.
Thanks. And Molly?
Um,
I want to say, I'm the one who forgot I was doing something and had to skip out on the family movie. You didn't make me abandon them or anything, so I hope you don't feel bad about it.
Thanks, Derek.
No worries. Just checking.
I hope you don't feel bad either. Derek scuffed the base of his black slip-on loafers against the ground as words faded away. Then he lifted his head to look somewhere past you.
Oh, hey, the music's playing.
He spoke softly, like he was afraid he'd bring the melodies to an end if he interrupted them. But Derek was right. Once he brought it to the front of your mind, the rest of the world came back in, the sounds of delicate plucks on strings included. There was no crowd gathered to dance, only a few couples spread out across the space. You must have missed the initial stream of soiree attendees. It had grown late.
Well, since we're here already and everything, would you want to dance with me?
The question ended on a hopeful upward inflection. He bounced up on his heels once to punctuate it. Derek stopped breathing entirely when the sentence was complete. Would you like to dance with me? I'd love to.
nice.
Yes!
Derek's cheer was pure, carefree even. The worries from right before vanished as quickly as he'd forgotten the movie. There was a trend with him, with you. Sweetly, he brought up a hand for you to take. You wrapped yours around his. It was still a bit sweaty from earlier, though so was yours. A sweaty dance. You took to the wide open floor and turned to face each other directly. Raising the one arm with Derek's, you positioned your other hand onto Derek at the same time. He followed your move with sharp focus. Your bodies were close enough together to almost touch, and in that position, you were eye to eye with Derek more intently than you'd ever been before. His cheeks were a lovely rosy pink shade. You tentatively moved as one. Derek stepped lightly, never so much as pinching the tips of your toes. Each sway transitioned better than the last, though there wasn't much of a flow. Derek danced more like a machine, clinking exactly into place at the right intervals. There was tension in Derek that he tried to play off with a joke.
Hey.
Check it out, we totally are dancers. They should have let us join that other party.
His stiffness on the delivery only made the line funnier. You had to crack a smile. Derek let the conversation drift away. Focus returned completely to a proper performance. You know what? Why not? Derek gulped, but pressed deeper into the touch. Yay! His warmth spread through you more wonderfully than the melodies swirling around. You were happy. Eventually, the last other guests returned to their tables to rest. It was only you and him left there. Ooh. In a small voice, Derek let you in on what was on his mind.
Hey. Sorry we kinda missed the party. I shouldn't have made you take me around everywhere.
I was waiting for this! We could have done anything and it'd be great. What do I want to do? Yeah, don't worry about that. I just hope you had fun.
I did. I'm still having fun right this exact second.
Ooh, I like that though. I'm really glad I had my first date with you. The tips of his eyebrows dug lower into his face. He was serious.
Really?
You mean it?
Yes, I really mean it. You'd brought him to a loss for words. Or actually, it was to a point where any words he wanted to say only got stuck at the end of his tongue. His mouth opened with a question. He closed it again without asking. Derek? He instantly shook his head, not letting you speak anything you might have wanted to either.
Forget it.
It's nothing. Well, would it be way too much to say thanks for bringing me again?
It's okay. Blissfully and with a dizzy tilt, Derek grinned with that charming smile of his. Your heart clenched as if you were in the free fall of a skydive rather than standing in the middle of a pleasant party. The feeling of connection was mutual. Derek was buzzing with the kind of energy you only got when it was bouncing off the best of company. It made Derek break out of his self-imposed mold. He tucked his left hand around your back and spun the both of you around. Whoa!
Let's go.
Okay. I can try. What do I want to do here? Sure, I'll shift my own hand to hold on more tightly.
Cool.
The two of you twirled like ballerinas. You pushed and pulled your bodies apart and back together. As your mom would have said, you cut a rug across the soiree floor. Let's go! Somehow you felt like a kid again, where it didn't matter what you did or who might be watching. The world was yours to enjoy. Derek had clearly embraced that mindset with a little impromptu tap dancing to the beat, bringing you along the whole way. You cheered and laughed together until you lost your breath, and even so you still kept going. Then all too soon, the song reached its conclusion. You could have continued quite contentedly for some time more. You and Derek let your arms drop down in front of you, though one hand stayed linked with his, and your feet remained rooted where they were. So cute! Suddenly you weren't holding hands to dance, you were just hand-holding with Derek. He took the initiative to finish your performance with flair by giving a properly formal curtsy while still never letting go of you. Derek crossed his legs and swept his back down. Legs bent, he lifted his head to face you and winked. Somehow you found some giggles left inside. You heard your name called out and Derek gasped. You both spun to find Mom yelling for you and Derek. Beside her, Mom was shaking her head. She's like, just leave them alone. They're having a cute moment. Don't yell their names.
Sorry.
Mom.
It's time to go home, Lonnie. I had to get hold of them somehow. What did you want me to do? Sneak up on them?
Her chosen method was admittedly better than that, but the timing was still terrible. Derek breathed a sigh of relief after the shock wore off. The shout had thrown him right back to earlier in the evening when unknown adults were also yelling after you. He lifted up one cheek with a lopsided smile.
Phew.
Looks like we're getting away with it. The getaway ride is here.
Haha. The two of you shared a private laugh while your parents watched the reaction in confusion. You were so glad you got a chance to dance with Derek after all of your misadventures at the party. Despite the minor spook, thanks to your mom, it had been a perfect ending to the evening. And it had to end sometime. You didn't need to say anything to him. The two of you strolled together again over to your parents, who were still bickering playfully.
Hello, Mrs. Waverider and Mrs. Waverider.
Standing shoulder to shoulder, the two surveyed you and Derek. You wondered if they were checking that they were returning the soiree's son in the same state that he'd left the house.
So,
That was quite a night, huh, gang? Wasn't it just? I think it was pretty unforgettable.
Derek's face had a full grin, and while the words were in response to your parents, he looked directly at you when he said them.
Thanks for bringing us.
Ma was smiling too, with an expression so soft it could have cradled a newborn chick.
well,
And how was your very first date? So good. Amazing. Really? We couldn't catch a glimpse of you the whole night, so what? Please don't start on them already. It technically hasn't even ended yet.
Why is Ma like got the crazy eyes? You good, Ma?
Fine, fine. Good. Well, we'd better hustle. First stop is bringing Derek home, and it's already getting late. Elizabeth will have the place to herself for a while longer. If we're lucky, our house might still be standing when we get back.
Pam.
Oh, shush.
She swatted your mom playfully, laughing at the comment. You cast one last look at the party. You saw people exchanging farewells and suppressing yawns. Most of the faces were happy ones, despite the weariness that was starting to creep in. Derek lingered near you, waiting. The pair of you were going to be left behind at the rate things were going. Turning away from the final moments of the summer soiree, you were left feeling grateful that you had such a good guest to keep you company the whole way through. You both easily caught up with your moms. They hadn't gone far. Together, the four of you navigated the crowded parking lot filled to the brim with cars from the other visitors. Ma, unfortunately, couldn't remember exactly where the car was. It took a short game of extra elegant, or extra ridiculous, depending on your view, hide and seek with the car to locate the familiar vehicle in a back corner of the lot. You clambered inside and Mom hit the road. It would be a while before you'd arrive at Derek's home, so you let yourself settle in against the seat. You slunk lower and rested your head against the car door. Little blurs of light flashed by one after the other as the car sped past street lamps lining the almost empty road. After more than 10 minutes of silence, Derek extended his arms and legs all the way out while lifting them in the air and parrying it with a wide yawn. He looked like a sleepy starfish. Derek glanced at you through squinted eyes as a soft smile replaced the large gape in his mouth before. In the darkness of the back of the car, as you rocked gently from the vibrations, he whispered to you, "Oh, stop! That's so sweet!" Aw, what a cutie pie!
You're great.
Oh. No, you're breathtaking. Are you doing okay? You're really cute.
Thanks.
His eyes fell closed, the ends of his lips still pulled up.
Do you think that brown-eyed dancer ever made it to the soiree?
Who can say? It's a new mystery.
Yeah.
Finally, you arrived at the condo complex. Your moms insisted on escorting Derek into his actual house. He didn't protest. You, of course, tagged along too. It would be too creepy to wait in the car. Yeah, I want to stay with Derek a little longer. It was a short walk to the building, through the modernly decorated lobby, up one floor and across the hall to Derek's front door. He paused the journey for a second to give a warning.
We're gonna have to be really quiet. It's past my brother's bedtime.
You and your moms nodded as a group. Mom even went the extra mile by making a mock zipping gesture across her lips. That was enough for him, and Derek shoved a hand deep into his gray dress pants. He retrieved a loop of shiny silver keys. He cycled through the first couple on the ring before carefully gripping the one he needed. It was slotted into the keyhole, twisted, and then the door was tugged slowly open. Derek went straight in. You followed on his heels with Ma behind you, and Mom got inside last. She shut the door. Lights were on in the main room, but it was an empty space. None of the 4 people here could be seen. The only sound was the clinking, rumbling of an active dishwasher. Derek bobbed his stretched out hands down low and back up, gesturing like a team captain for you to hold the line. Your mom gave a thumbs up. He tiptoed down the hall, hunching his shoulders up high. When he reached the last door at the end, he shifted from almost crouching to extending out to his tallest height. Then Derek gave the door a few light knocks. Mr. Suarez answered, his features lit up seeing who was there. Mrs. Suarez joined her son and husband right after. Mouths opened and closed as they had an inaudible conversation on the other side of the condo. Their lips shut when Derek pointed to the entryway. Both Suarez parents took a step out of the room, one in front of the other. They easily spotted your family there, huddled together in your formal attire. The 3 of you stayed put while they crowded through the hall. The room came alive with pleasant greetings between the 2 pairs of grown-ups, though all in hushed tones. They offered a hello to you next.
Welcome.
Welcome to our home, Wave Rider family.
So good to see you.
We returned your kid in one piece. Hello.
Hey, Mom. Hey, Dad.
Hello.
I'm sorry for keeping him out so late. Right. For a mostly elderly crowd, those country club goers sure can party into the wee hours of the night.
From the side, Mr. Suarez snickered.
Apologize to Nicholas.
Derek picked up on the little comment loud and clear. It made his teeth clench.
Aww.
He threw a fit, huh?
Oh. The chuckles grew into full, unobscured laughter.
Yes.
He was trying to drown us all in tears when the time to sleep came and his most loved person still wasn't home. Junior wasn't pleased either, in his way.
In contrast to the father's tickled amusement, Derek's mom frowned. Yeah, I was picking up on her reactions during that conversation. She's like, I kind of wish he hadn't said that. She rubbed the opposite sides of her forearms with her hands crossed over her chest.
Don't worry about that.
Derek and Molly can't be blamed for that. This was an important night. Yes, it is. Shh!
Derek and his mom brought a finger to their lips to hush Mr. Suarez in a united chorus of disapproval. Derek's dad chuckled softly under his breath, rustling his beard. You got the impression he knew exactly what reaction he was going to get, and it was done on purpose. He played innocent and simply continued with what he wanted to say.
So?
How was your date? Fun?
He tucked his fingers into the edges of his vest, puffing up his chest.
I know you of all our children were prepared to accompany someone to a proper social gathering. One day, when you are older, you could come with me to business dinners.
Mr. Suarez's genuine pride over the date felt like a foreign language in comparison to your mom's love of teasing. But for Derek, that nod of approval made him just as bashful as your parents could do to you.
We had a nice time. Thanks, Dad.
Mrs. Suarez beamed and gave her child an encouraging pat on the cheeks, squashing his face between both hands.
That's great.
That's what we hope to hear.
Yeah. Thank you for letting Derek come with me to the party.
You're welcome.
Molly, I wouldn't have wanted him to miss it.
His parents were so nice. But that wasn't a surprise. Derek had to get it from somewhere.
And have no fear, Junior and Nicholas will recount the movie so well, it will be as if you saw it yourself. I already feel as though I have watched it myself 3 or 4 times.
It was meant to be further encouragement, but the weight of self-imposed shame brought Derek's head down. His mother watched over him. Her mouth opened slightly before she had the words to say.
Were you stressed about that tonight? Not coming to the movies with us?
Maybe.
A little.
No more.
Derek, you have nothing to be guilty over. End of discussion. No more feeling sorry.
Good on you, parents. He shouldn't feel guilty for, making some other plans. Something that he wanted to, really do, separate from his family. It's good. Derek's dad followed that up with his wholehearted agreement.
When will there be another day to attend a summer soiree? A movie can be rented after it leaves the theaters. It will wait for you as long as you want.
And so will we. We're not going anywhere.
Derek finally let himself embrace the fact that he'd done something just for himself and that it was all right. Yay! Good.
Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad.
He stood a little taller and seemed a little more grown up. Exhaling long and slow from his nose, Mr. Suarez spoke peacefully.
Young love is a beautiful thing.
Mr. Suarez? You questioned if you actually heard that right until you heard Derek.
What?
Mom is like, He might not have heard himself, though. Derek was in such a shock he shouted out with a volume higher than you'd ever experienced from him and at the worst possible time for it. A bushy brow raised on Mr. Suarez's head. He frowned, earnestly bemused.
What? Is that wrong?
Derek snapped back with pained frustration. There was an audible whine in his tone. I love that Mom is trying so hard, and Mr. Suarez is just like, he's basically a himbo, just like, doo-dee-doo-dee-doo, just saying things.
Why would you say that?
Oh, and you've awoken the beast! And then tiny, rapid footsteps thumped out across the hardwood. The echoes moved with purpose, and they were coming closer. An accepting sigh of defeat brought your attention away from the incoming commotion. Mrs. Suarez had folded her arms across her chest. Well, he's up. Derek clapped a hand to face. He winced partially from the impact of that, but mainly from the consequences of his earlier action. I blame your dad for this, honestly.
I hate to say it.
I hate to chase you off, but we're going to have to get Nicholas back into bed where he belongs. Time to call it a night, everyone.
Oh, no, I understand completely. Little ones can be such a handful,
You could feel a pointed look being set your way.
Not so little ones can be too in different ways.
A prim smile remained in place on Ma's face, but there was a smirk twinkling in her eyes. Derek's mom rested her hands back on her hips as she laughed musically.
I say that Nicholas having the energy of 3 is a price I must pay with what angels Derek and Jorge are. We'll survive it together.
Aww. The two sets of parents exchanged the briefest goodbyes with each other, but they weren't any less friendly. There wasn't time to waste.
Night, Molly. Sorry about this. The party was great.
Good luck with all that. It was amazing. Have a good night.
Yeah.
He waved with a sleepy softness while you were ushered out by Mom and Ma. Before your Ma could pull the Suarez's front door completely shut, a final squeal escaped through the crack. There it is. And that was followed by the click of a lock in place. Derek had officially been returned to his family. He was no longer your guest. Mom's heels clicked down the complex's hallway with her head high and a grin playing out on her face.
Now that's one way to end the night. I agree, Pam. If only Elizabeth would welcome us home with the same level of enthusiasm.
They both laughed, covering their mouths and trading glances like schoolgirls. It was easy to imagine the sour face she'd show the second you arrived back home. Yes, young love. Yeah, I would be on cloud 9, honestly. It was magical. You were so glad you'd been able to stay with him for as long as you could. As your mom had said, your first independent formal party ended on a very memorable note. Thanks, Nicholas. Oh, that was great. That was had such a different feeling from the soiree with Cove. So different, but it was great. And freaking Baxter just cameoing out of nowhere. Excuse you. He looked so different, but also recognizable enough. It's really interesting. I got questions about that, but Derek was a perfect gentleman. He's got lots of feelings going on. I just want to give that boy the biggest hug. All right, well, we got one moment left in this step. Gonna finish it off with Boardwalk. I'll see you then, guys.